From the Denver Broncos Media Center, welcome to Broncos Country Tonight with Ryan Edwards and Benjamin Allbright.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Phillip Lindsay. Now, he was on Sirius XM, and he had some good stuff. Now this soundbite on Drew Lock, some people are taking and twisting it a little bit. I want to get your interpretation of what Phillip Lindsay is saying about Drew Lock here. We'll kind of break it down, and I feel like we can talk about it from both sides, but I think it meant more of a constructive conversation about Drew Lock than a negative. But here's what Phillip Lindsay had to say on Sirius XM today about his former quarterback.
Drew holds his own future. You know, at the end of the day, things have been set in place for him to be successful. He has to take advantage of it. Drew's a great young man, and he needs to continue to develop. Now, that's on him. He's in a battle between him and him, nobody else. When he looks in the mirror, he needs to look at what he needs to do to make his team better, to put his team over the top. They're going to have a fantastic defense. Fangio does a great job with that. But for Drew, it's going to be like, what did I not do last year that I need to do this year that's going to put me on another level? And he has the capabilities of doing that. And he just needs to find it within himself. And so if Drew does that, you guys are going to see a talented young man. And he's hungry. You know what I mean? Like, he's hearing all this backlash and all this stuff. You know, but for Drew, it's not about what everybody else says. It's between him and him. And if he can look in the mirror and he can find himself, he's going to have a great career going on forward. And I wish them but the best for him.
Okay, so I want to kind of break that down a little bit because there's a lot there. So he talks about how Drew holds his own future. He said things have been set in place for him to be successful. He has to take advantage of it. He needs to continue to develop, but that's on him. He's in a battle between him and nobody else. I thought that was and there's more to it, but I wanted to start with that. Some people are taking that and twisting it in a way of, well, you know, Drew Lock basically wasn't doing enough up to this point, and that's why he's saying it's on him. He needs to do more. Kind of like the twisting the words of Tim Patrick, where he's working on different things. Remember, I feel like. First of all, this really shouldn't be.
Did anybody take this that way? Because this is very obviously not one of those.
Oh no, people took it that way.
Of course,
people took it that way. But that's the thing is I didn't hear that. I heard this more as Drew's got the talent. Whether he ever gets to that point, we always say that whenever you get to the point where you meet that guy that becomes the best version of yourself, it kind of is up to you. And so that's kind of what I took it as. What did you take it as?
I took it as that he needs to avoid the distractions of all the talk about other quarterbacks and focus on himself. Because that's really what he was saying. Phil Lindsay was saying, look, he's either got it inside himself or he doesn't. And he's got to get there on his own. And everybody knows that the Broncos organization is going to be pursuing in some way a quarterback. They know that they're either going to bring in veteran competition or in the draft or whatever. Everybody knows that. And so I think what Phil was trying to say to Drew is tune out the noise. You know, it's in you. Find it in you and make it work. Because for Phil, that's what has worked. When everybody told Phil he couldn't, he dug down inside himself and made it work.
Yeah, that's a great point you bring up, where his history has come from.
Right. Everybody views things through their own lens.
Yes.
And for Phil Lindsay, that's the lens that he views things through. That's self-improvement and putting that chip on your shoulder and taking the negativity, internalizing it and making yourself a better player will make you a better player because it worked for him. And that's a positive thing for Phil. It doesn't necessarily work for everybody, but it's a positive thing for Phil. It's for the same reason John Elway didn't really bring in competition for Drew Lock last year. Because John Elway had competition brought in. He got yanked around a bunch early on in his career. And he thought that was detrimental to his development. So he didn't really want to bring in anybody that was really going to challenge Drew Lock last year because he felt it was detrimental to his development. You just go out there and you be the man. So everybody views things through their own lens and their own perspective. And sometimes you need to take a step back from that and see not just what the person is saying, but why they're saying it. And in this case, it's very obviously Phil saying, hey, man, put that chip on your shoulder and go make yourself better.
Next point he makes, he says they're going to have a fantastic defense this year. Fangio does a fantastic job with that. But for Drew, it's what did I not do last year that I need to do this year that's going to put me on another level? And he says he has the capability of doing that. And that's kind of another kind of great point of taking a look back, and I think that's kind of where we can marry a little bit of what Tim Patrick was saying recently is he's been doing more film study. He's been taking a look back at what he did last year and trying to work on those things. He worked on the physical stuff all year long. He was trying in season to get to a point where he could physically do the job. He could stop making mistakes. He could work on his footwork, all those types of things. Well, he could still do those things, but going back over the film, studying his tendencies, improving from that. I mean, that really is kind of the difference of the greats and really kind of the guys that just are pretty average in this league is what kind of work they put in the offseason.
For Phil, it is a mental mindset. Like that's his thing. It's all for Phil Lindsay. Everything is a mindset, and he believes that. Again, it's his experience. Everybody told him he's too small, he couldn't do it, so I'm gonna do it. And I think that's if you look at these quotes, he's given all these quotes. I really think that it speaks to a lot of that right there. I really think it speaks to his see it, dream it, do it kind of thing. And that's really what's come from. How people were taking these quotes negative, I don't know. Well, I know that they will find a way because that's what they want to do.
No, and that's where, again, people will try to kind of draw out of this as if Phillip Lindsay was trying to throw Drew Lock under the bus. And I just think it was just sort of an honest point about what Drew Lock is and what he isn't. And when it comes down to what he could become is a lot up to him. Now, there's other factors in here, the opportunity to become that, to get those reps, to get the opportunity to lead this team out there on the field. We don't know if he's going to get that opportunity again. He might, but he also could lose out in camp. But again, that's on him. If they end up opening this competition up, where they draft a quarterback, they bring in somebody else, I mean, he's going to take this thing as far as he can possibly go. I think that the overriding element here is that Phillip Lindsay is pointing out he has all the physical talents to play the position. This isn't a conversation about whether or not he physically can do it. Right. It's about whether or not mentally he has the makeup to arrive at the level that he needs to. Coming up next on Broncos Country Tonight, we break down our favorite inside linebackers we want the Broncos to target in the NFL Draft.
Welcome back to Broncos Country Tonight. Here are Ryan Edwards and Benjamin Allbright.
Let's go ahead and get into our conversation about linebackers. And you'll do your big board coming up here in a week or so. But I thought we could take a minute here because we were asked on the text line about Jamin Davis out of Kentucky.
And who asked that? Because they're I appreciate them asking about that specific name for a specific reason.
Okay, well, why don't you tell us?
The Broncos are interested. I will tell you, they're interested, and that's one of those things that I was gonna kind of unroll a little later on this week, but they're very interested in him. He's one of the ones, along with Zaven Collins, that they're kind of eyeballing there at the the end of the first, beginning of the second. If they get some flexibility, if they move back, they get the extra picks. If they move up in the second, that kind of thing. So he is definitely on their radar. I will tell you that. Not 100% they're going to take him or anything, but he is definitely on their radar. And that one, Vic Fangio knows linebackers. That's got his seal of approval. So I'll tell you this: he's a guy that takes away throwing lanes. He's got a great vertical. He's explosive. He's a good tackler. I think he's a good linebacker, and I think he would be a great addition to this football team.
He's going to be tough. I mean, after today's workout, obviously he put up some incredible numbers, some eye-popping numbers. I'm looking at one 40-yard dash saying 4.37, but I also seeing a 4.41. I mean, either way, there's a 4.37. Yeah, 4.37 40, 11-inch broad, 11-foot broad jump, and then a 42-inch vertical. He just put just ridiculous numbers today. He's going to be one of those guys that some teams are going to probably see as their second best inside linebacker in this class. And I don't really have much of an argument. I think it comes down to how you ultimately classify Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Some people think that Jeremiah out of Notre Dame is a linebacker. You and I kind of look at more as a safety. I think with Vic Fangio, he might be able to find room to move him around. I think that there's some options there. But is that a guy you take that has that versatility in the first round or into the second round? Because, I mean, he is, again, one of those super athletic, speedy, can cover, brilliant tackler. My goodness, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, just, unbelievably brilliant tackler. And that's something that Vic Fangio really values.
Yeah, and it is. He needs those kinds of things. I like Joke. I think he's he could be a fit. And if you look back to what they were doing last year, trying to get more athletic at that position, they brought in Mark Barron. Now, Barron obviously got hurt and never played. And, they brought in Nigel Bradham, another guy who was athletic, but he never got a chance to play because he was hurt. And so, they definitely have an eye toward getting more athletic at that position. Now, Mark Barron's a former safety. And so the archetype sort of exists if you're buying into that. they want to trade back in the first, Joke would be, and they were at Notre Dame's pro day.
Mm-hmm.
So Joke would be somebody that you kind of have your eye on and see what you see. To me, that they were going there. I mean, a lot of people are talking about Book at quarterback. I don't think that's why they were there. I think they were there for Joke.
Okay, so let's take a look at the rest of the guys. We mentioned about Jamin Davis, and we both like him quite a bit. You said that there could be interest there in Zaven Collins out of Tulsa. Another really good inside linebacker, 6'4", 260 pounds. Another guy that is kind of a blitz guy, but very, very good. Also, Nick Bolton, I think, is going to be kind of in the mix there on day 2 out of Missouri.
He's a hitter.
Yes, he is.
More of a downhill guy, but he's a hitter.
Yes. So, I mean, you're trying to look. It's a little bit of different flavor on all these guys. Jabril Cox, I like.
See, that's the one I think is the better fit. He's a much more pure coverage guy than, the kid from Bolton, from Missouri. He's a hitter, but Cox is a coverage guy. He's the kind of guy that you want in a Vic Fangio defense, I think.
Justin Hillard out of Ohio State, another off-the-ball inside linebacker. Monty Rice out of Georgia. Pete Werner. Chaz Surratt. Some people really like Chaz Surratt. You and Mace were trying to talk me into Chaz Surratt out of North Carolina out there at the Senior Bowl. I don't really see it, at least not at the level of where people expect him to go, which is day 2. He's a converted guy. He didn't start as an inside linebacker. He was actually on the offensive side playing quarterback of all things.
Yeah.
So people were saying, oh, well, he's got the intelligence and he sees the field a little bit different. I don't know. Converted guys means for me that you weren't very good at your original position, and so they moved you to something else. It's not always the case.
I mean,
but sometimes, and most of the time, it's like you couldn't quite hack it at the position that we brought you in here for, so we're going to convert you to something. And that's just not usually one you see a transition to. We've seen corners go to wide receiver and vice versa. You don't often see a quarterback go to inside linebacker.
Not very often. You don't see them switch sides of the ball, though I can tell you I've seen quarterbacks go to safety and back. Tannehill obviously went to wide receiver and back, and that wasn't because of lack of skill. It was just you had a log jam at the position. So there's different reasons that those things happen, in a lot of cases. It's not like it's just one reason that kind of stuff happens, but with Surratt, and what I see, and I don't want to speak for Ace, but with what I see is upside. I see an intelligent football player that you hope can become that guy. Is he there now? No. Is he going to be a starter year 1? Absolutely not. But is he a guy that has some upside there that if you got a day 3 pick that you want to throw a dart at? Yeah, I'm there for that.
I like Baron Browning a lot, but he also might be considered more of an outside linebacker by some. I think he could play inside. I mean, he did play. He has played inside. But there might be some that just – I mean, when we watched him out at the Senior Bowl, just unbelievable talent, was wrecking offensive linemen, offensive tackles. It was, they couldn't stop him. So, there's a lot of options, especially on day 2. See, this comes back to that conversation with Colin Cowherd and talking about Micah Parsons and how the best linebacker in the country. And it's okay, well, I mean, he's very talented. There's no doubt the Broncos will be upgraded with Micah Parsons. But I think that you can get players that fit better for what they need on day 2. And that's where I would target my inside linebacker. If I'm going for one that I need to put in the middle and I need to have a guy has coverage ability, then I'm looking for one on day 2 because I think that's where there's a little bit of a sweet spot.
If you're not going to spend that, then you do want to wait till day 2. You don't want to overextend yourself on a linebacker, but you do need to get leverage because, like I said, you're going to have to pay Alexander Johnson next year. You really don't have anything else. You like Sternad, but you don't have anything proven in there. So, maybe that's a position they double up on.
It's really the only position on the defensive side there's a hole right now. Coming up next, Pro Football Focuses George Chahrouri on the program. What are the Broncos' options at the top of the NFL draft with all the trades? We'll get to it next.
Welcome back to Broncos Country Tonight with Ryan Edwards and Benjamin Allbright.
Let's head out to the hotline and bring on our friend George Chahrouri at PFF_George. Colin Cowherd today said that the Broncos have a million needs on defense. First of all, I just would like to know how that's quantified from a PFF standpoint when a team has a million needs on one side of the ball. I mean, where do you even start?
Look, I had a feeling this is what I was walking into. And I'll just say this, okay, because I think Colin Cowherd is really good at his job. He has the unenviable situation where he's got to cover everything. So I understand that he is going to make mistakes. The Broncos do not have a million needs on defense. I don't know that they have one need on defense. That's the strength. They have so many strengths on their team, really. I think it's more about the one need that they have on the whole team. And I'm surprised that Colin Cowherd would forget that, except that he maybe was trying to get people to not bring up where he ranked Drew Lock just a year ago. So maybe that was the calculus. Maybe he was trying to take the heat off reminding people of that.
The Broncos might have an opportunity as all those trades that went down. We haven't had a chance to talk to you since all that happened. The Broncos might have an opportunity if McCorkle-Jones goes to the 49ers or not, whatever. There's going to be another couple quarterbacks available. You've been really big on the Broncos trading up for a quarterback, though I see the most recent mocks continuing to drive home that the Broncos should address offensive tackle. You guys haven't taken one in the second round, and continue to look at the defensive side of the ball. So I just like to know from PFF's side, which is it? Should they go get a quarterback or should they focus in on the team?
Hey, look, I am one of my favorite things about PFF is we're all leveraging a great data source, the same data source, but everyone should have their own data-driven opinions. You can have those out there as possible. And I am a huge proponent of going up if you feel, as the Niners do, and as I just talked about, that there is someone in there who has a ceiling of a top 5 guy. And, I think if you're lucky enough, if Mac Jones goes to the Niners, then I think the door swings wide open because you have a couple of teams that might want to move up. They might be a little hesitant. And the Broncos are in that position where they just have to move in front of them. And I think that the Miami Dolphins would be a team very amenable to moving back. Okay. So, it'll be interesting to see what the Falcons and the Bengals decide to do. But if they go Sewell, Pitts, or Chase, and one of those players is someone that the Dolphins were targeting, I could see them moving back, and that's an opportunity. And I would absolutely do it. I would do it for Fields. I would do it for Lance. I would not do it for Mac Jones, as I think I've made pretty clear. I don't know. Would you guys, assuming, it's going to cost you, a couple of picks, would you guys do that?
Probably not. I am not but then I'm lower on these. Let's be honest. I am lower on this quarterback class than a lot of people. To me, there's a bunch of people that view this thing as one of the stacked classes of all times or whatever. And it's the same gut feeling I had about I think it was 2011 when Cam Newton came out. I was like, yeah, there's a guy at the top, and then there's a lot of guys that really aren't that good, like Christian Ponder and Blaine Gabbert and Jake Locker, who are all drafted there. It's so for me, like I'm like, I look at these guys and I see one thing. I see a lot of projects, and maybe, but I'm not betting the farm on that. There's not anybody there I'm betting the farm on. I understand that the quarterback play needs to improve, whether that's Drew Lock taking a jump, somebody coming in and playing better, or a draft pick. But I'm also not betting the farm and setting my franchise back 3 years, swinging at a pitch in the dirt like another Paxton Lynch.
Threw some names out there that would have me terrified as well. You brought the poo-poo platter. I've
been in this game a long time.
That is scary. Drake put out Scary Hours. That might be the sequel right there. Those quarterbacks that you mentioned. I do think it's really interesting though, because you brought up the project thing, and everyone's willing to take a risk on a project who's an athlete, and I think Trey Lance is the ultimate one because you just have such a small sample, and you're like, okay, can this guy really do the things that we want him to do in a situation that matters? Because at North Dakota State, you never saw that happen. It's so much projection. So I definitely see where you're coming from. And here's the thing that I'll say about the draft. I think we've talked about this. When you look back at the draft class, a year later, and then you compare them to the current draft class, notice how people always are so much more down on the guys they've just seen play in the NFL, right? The shine wears off. I'll go back to the car. You drive the Honda Accord off the lot, it loses, half its value super quick. And so it's a good thing to have in mind when you're getting excited about quarterbacks. I think it's a great point.
I got to get one more question here about for the Broncos as it relates to the possibility of having one of these top-end players fall in their lap at 9. So everybody's excited about quarterbacks and the possibilities and trading up like that. But all I'm sitting here thinking about is, boy, one of these top offensive tackles could be there. Kyle Pitts could be there. I mean, why would I be desperate at quarterback if I don't really have to be? And I guess that's a little bit of eye of beholder, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, so what does desperate at quarterback mean? I mean, I would say the position that the Broncos are in is uniquely desperate at quarterback. And the reason I say that is you have a really, really good team. Contrary to Colin Cowherd's beliefs, it's a really, really good team. So, the only reason maybe that you can be a little patient is you do have a lot of young players, so it's not like, you've got to find out right away. But it's tough because as much as I would say waiting for other teams to make mistakes ahead of you is a proven, a really successful strategy. Say you bring in Kyle Pitts. Are you still not just a quarterback away, and where is that quarterback coming from? Where is that going to come from? Are you just going to wait another year? Is it going to be Sam Darnold? Is it going to be Jimmy G? I don't know. Who else is out there right now where you're going, yes, we bring in Kyle Pitts, and then there's this quarterback waiting to come in and take this team to the next level.
Thanks for watching Broncos Country Tonight. Tune in to Broncos TV every weeknight at 6:30, right here on KTVD Channel 20.